Hello and welcome to Outside Views EU, your source for deep dives into the policies shaping Europe today. Today we're discussing one of the most complex and controversial issues within the European Union, taxation policies. Taxation is not just about funding public services, it's about fairness, competitiveness and sovereignty. And within the EU, where 27 member states operate with diverse economies and political systems, taxation is a highly sensitive topic. The EU's approach to taxation revolves around two competing priorities: harmonization and respecting member state autonomy. So how does the EU navigate this tricky balance? Let's start with harmonization. Harmonization of taxation policies means creating a more unified framework across the EU to ensure fair competition and reduce loopholes. One key area where harmonization has been pursued is value-added tax or VAT. VAT is a consumption tax applied across all member states, but its rates vary significantly. The EU has established minimum VAT rates to prevent unfair competition, but member states still have room to set their own specific rates above that. Another area of harmonization is corporate taxation, particularly in the fight against tax avoidance. Large multinational companies often exploit differences between national tax systems to minimize their tax liabilities. And to address this, the EU has implemented measures like the Anti-Tax Avoidance Directive, which sets rules to prevent profit shifting and base erosion. Additionally, the EU has been pushing for the Common Consolidated Corporate Tax Base or CCCTB. This proposal aims to create a single set of rules for calculating taxable profits in the EU, making it easier to allocate profits fairly among member states. However, harmonization efforts face significant resistance, especially from smaller member states. Countries like Ireland, Luxembourg and the Netherlands have built their economies around competitive tax policies to attract foreign investment. And for these nations, tax sovereignty is a vital tool for maintaining their economic competitiveness. And this brings us to the tensions within the EU over taxation. The principle of unanimity in tax matters means that any tax-related decisions require the agreement of all member states. And this has often resulted in gridlock as countries with low corporate tax rates block proposals they see as threatening their economic models. Take the case of Ireland and its 12.5% corporate tax rate. This rate has attracted tech giants like Apple and Google, which have their European headquarters in Ireland. Efforts to introduce a minimum corporate tax rate across the EU have faced fierce opposition from Ireland and other low-tax states. Similarly, Luxembourg and the Netherlands have been criticized for their role as tax havens within the EU. These countries argue that their tax systems are legal and their economies benefit from attracting multinational companies. On the other hand, larger economies like France and Germany have long called for greater harmonization to create a level playing field. They argue that tax competition within the EU undermines fairness and erodes public trust. One recent breakthrough in this debate was the agreement on a global minimum corporate tax rate of 15%, led by the OECD and supported by the EU. While this is a step toward harmonization, its implementation within the EU remains challenging due to the unanimity rule. And another contentious area is digital taxation. Many member states believe that tech giants like Amazon, Facebook and Google should pay more taxes where they generate revenue, not just where they are headquartered. The EU has proposed a digital services tax, but progress has been slow due to disagreements among member states and concerns about international trade relations. And then there's the issue of wealth taxation. Some member states, like Sweden and Denmark, have higher taxes on wealth and income to fund extensive social welfare programs. Others, like Estonia and Bulgaria, have flat tax systems that prioritize simplicity and economic growth. And these differences reflect not only economic strategies, but also cultural attitudes toward taxation and redistribution. So, where does this leave the EU? The Union faces a delicate balancing act between respecting national sovereignty and pursuing harmonization for the greater good. One potential solution is enhanced cooperation, where a group of willing member states move forward on specific tax policies without requiring unanimity. This is a word I never could pronounce, I'm sorry. This approach has been used in areas like financial transaction taxes, but it risks creating divisions within the EU. And another avenue is to reform the unanimity rule itself. The European Commission has proposed moving to qualified majority voting for certain tax matters, but this idea is highly controversial. Ultimately, taxation policies across the EU reflect the broader challenges of integration. While harmonization can reduce inefficiencies and promote fairness, it must be balanced against the diverse needs and priorities of individual member states. So, in conclusion, taxation is a microcosm of the EU's broader struggle to reconcile unity with diversity. The debate over harmonization and sovereignty will continue to shape the Union's future. But also in this case, what do you think? Should the EU push harder for tax harmonization, or should member states retain full control over their tax systems? Just let me know your thoughts in the comments below the video. And as usual, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more in-depth discussions on EU policies and politics. Thank you once again for watching Outside Views EU, and I'll see you in the next video. One of them is right here in the end screen.